What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York calling from Zoom again, and this time we return with Christina of Lacuna Coil. Great to be able to talk with you. Thanks for being here.
It's good to be here. Thank you, Alex.
Oh,
Thank you
it's
for the invitation.
anytime, anytime. It's always great to be able to talk with you. Comalize XX or Comalize 20, as I've been calling it. It depends who you ask. But this is truly amazing. It reminded me why I love the album all the way back to 2002. When you were remaking this album, were you kind of putting yourself back in the mind of who Christina was in 2002? Or were you kind of looking at these songs with the modern day Christina that we all know today?
No, actually, I didn't think about Christina or Lacuna Coil in the past. I simply thought, and I think the guys did the same, to give a great tribute to a record that meant so much to us and means so much to us nowadays. It was a record that allowed us to, I would say, to make a career, out of our biggest passion. So when we rewrote it, I think that if I have to choose, it would be more the modern Christina, because of course, it would have been done with nowadays knowledge on songwriting, nowadays experience in recording and singing, uh, also with a modern taste, even if the core is the same, and obviously taking advantage of the technologies that we have now, because that was another important point, to bring this record to life.
Definitely. And do you feel that maybe like the songs have maybe new meaning or there's a different type of context to it, or being that the lyricism is very much the same, that they do kind of convey a similar message?
I think that it might be something very simple, but like today, we know the English language in a better way. So even when we sing, we have a different approach because we really sing what we are singing, because we know what it really means. We're telling a story, and we can connect better with the songs. Some of the songs, I think, they became more powerful, more tortured at times. So I feel the intensity of the new versions, and I love them in an equal way, because in my mind they are the same record, but they are two separate records because we worked towards it like it was a new record.
Yeah.
I don't know how to explain. It's something really complicated because it is not a remaster, is not an embellished version of Comalize. We really thought about what would it be if Lacuna Coil in 2022 would write a record like Comalize, how we would do it nowadays.
Yeah.
But the people who wrote the record is pretty much the same. So the core is still there because we might have evolved, but it's still us.
Well, do you feel like, do you prefer if every album, this could go for Comalize or anything from Inner Reverie to now, do you think that I've always said that art is life, and when you bring it into the world, it grows, it develops. Do you feel like maybe the meaning in the music could evolve over time as we've demonstrated here, or do you prefer if every album represents a snapshot of who you are at a time? Like I'll say that the lyrics to Angel's Punishment, for example, aged pretty well in today's day and
Yes,
age.
they
And
did.
yeah, and I've always wondered if like the Ghost Woman and the Hunter was maybe serving as a metaphor for maybe either an internal or external conflict. So do you think that these songs evolved over time as you evolved?
I think that every song for every artist kind of represents a moment in history, because you are creating something and you're translating what you're living, what you're feeling in words and music. But it is also true that you can get any kind of different emotions as a listener. It happens to me when I listen to other people's songs. I don't necessarily need to know why they wrote that song. I just want to extract the feeling that I get from that song and the emotion that I get from that song. So it is true that some songs are aging well, as you said, because maybe some words are easier to relate to. But it is also true that sometimes you stay attached to a song that it's 20 years old because it reminds you a specific moment of your life, so not necessarily in the artist's life.
Yeah.
So I'm happy if we can connect with many people as possible, and if everybody is free to give a different interpretation and vibe out of every song.
Of course. Now, you mentioned all these different emotions, and you're 100% right. I get different vibes from every single song. And what I've noticed is too is that you have they all the subject matter is also different. Like a song like "Take Me Home" off of Delirium, that is my morning commute jam, I must say. Um,
That's so
yeah,
cool.
it's perfect for the subway. But like you have songs that are catchy like that, but then you also have songs like One Cold Day or My Spirit that's very much rooted in grief and loss,
Yeah.
and songs off of Delirium that's very rooted in illness. When you have to address your inner demons, internal or external, obviously it's very cathartic and it's a release,
Mhm.
but can that also maybe make the songwriting process also rather deteriorating?
Oh yeah, it is. It is. But I think it's a good kind of suffering. Um, I am that type of person that loves very dramatic, sad, torturing songs, because according to my taste, it's when I get the most. I really like to suffer through the listening because it. I don't know. I get shivers. I am crying good tears because it is my way to push out all the negativities. Sure, I love, party music and happier songs, but my favorite ones are the ones in which I almost struggle to listen and to sing in our case.
Hmm.
So as you said, songs like, for example, My Spirit are difficult for me to sing, or Downfall, who was inspired by my mom. uh, it's hard for me to sing them, but they remind me why I do this is to feel something in this life. Everything is so fast, things are happening so intensely and quickly that we wake up, we go to work, we pay our bills, and sometimes we forget that we are human beings with feelings.
Hmm.
So all those emotions are reconnecting me with myself.
And being that you do have songs that also dabble in sort of like fantasy elements like Die and Rise, or a lot of other specific songs, like I know that Black Anima, your recent album, had like a lot of sort of like historical elements and sort of fantasy influences. Do you have maybe a different attachment to that song, or being that it is still coming from your own heart, you have the same amount of attachment, it just resonates with you in a different way?
It's not that I have a special attachment with a song or a record, because I mean it all comes to the band. We like to come out as an army, and we surely transform on stage when we're playing. I surely do. I'm very different when I'm off stage. When I feel on stage and I'm performing, I feel like I'm a sort of a I feel like I'm a demon. I feel like I'm capable of something. I don't mind about what's going on. Obviously, I interact with the crowd, but I am in my own bubble. I feel protected. I feel that I can use this energy I have inside in a good way. But I don't have a specific attachment to a record or a song, to be honest.
Well, it's funny you mention that because I've always said that Lacuna Coil was a very visual aesthetic. A lot of people maybe notice it now more with the use of makeup and the sort of choreography that's incorporated. But like, even if I
Yeah.
listen to an album like Unleashed Memories, for example, I can't listen to that album without seeing that sun that's on the album cover that you held in the
Yes.
photo shoots.
Yeah,
Um,
visuals are important for bands, especially when you are putting out a record. I mean, the first encounter is a booklet. So the cover is important because it's the first thing that connects you to a record. And also the image of the band. I've heard so many different opinions. So some people think that it's overdoing it if you have your own outfits or costumes, or you transform on stage. And I do think the opposite, because I think that is helpful, and it's great for the band to enter in concert mood. And it's also cool for someone who is coming to attend the concert, that it has something cool to watch, because
Absolutely.
of course they're coming to listen to the music, but it's cool to have something visual as well to go with.
100% actually. And I think one band that has always done that very well would be My Chemical Romance. Every album that they had like a different aesthetic. But have you felt, you mentioned like you almost feel like a demon. Have you felt with the visual aesthetic lately that maybe you do sort of portray, like, for lack of better words, like a character or maybe an element outside of who you are, or is it like an external metaphor in a way for who you personally are?
No, no, I'm happy if I can be, a character of Cristina Scabbia, because it's kind of cool, to have a different vision of myself from a different perspective. And also, you know that I am because we met many times, and you know me and the band, you know that I'm a lover of like video games. I've been created as a playable character for the Iron Maiden game as well. So I love to 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 think at myself as a character, because as I said, it's still me on stage, but I don't go to the grocery store as I go on stage, and not because I'm ashamed, but because it is still part of me, but it's separate.
Yeah, of course. Any artist that tells you this is who I am 24/7, they're lying to you. You still got to go to the grocery store.
Yeah, or maybe not. I mean, I can't talk for everyone, but I mean, there's nothing to be ashamed of, that you're doing regular things in life, but then you kick ass on a stage, and or with your band, or
Of
with
course.
your music.
Of course. I
No,
can't, I can't wear my tattoos in certain settings, and I'm not like ashamed of that, that it is what it
exactly.
is. Now, I mentioned this before when we spoke last time, but if you played me 30 seconds of a song, I could tell that that's off of Inner Reverie, that's off of Shallow Life, that's off of Delirium, etc. But one thing that ties all your albums together is the voices of you and Andrea. I always enjoy hearing you two sing together. When it comes to the lyrics or just tracking the vocals, do both of you need to be in a similar frame of mind to kind of make the song consistent in a way? Or could you both being in your own little worlds actually help enhance the song?
It depends, because when we write the song, we write ideas for vocal lines separately. We come up with ideas at home, and then we meet up at Marcus' place, Marcus' studio, where we put all the stuff together and we pick up which one is the best. Sometimes it happens that I write parts for Andrea, or Andrea finds a cool part that I can sing. And then we write the lyrics together. So it's a very democratic process, and we are lucky because we have the same taste. So when something is good, we all convey, okay, this is good, we're gonna keep it. And if we find if that we could find something better, there might be a little bit of a discussion, even with Maki, because he's the internal producer of the band. So if he says like, no, I think you guys can find something better, we might fight for a bit, but we surely know that we can come up with something better, and it usually happens. But when we are performing, I think that each one of us likes to be in its bubble, because, for example, I play with in-ears, and I always only want my voice and a little bit of keyboards to sustain. But sometimes I don't even hear Andrea, but of course I know the songs. But I'm more focused on what I'm doing, and I'm sure that he's focusing on what he is doing.
Yeah. I've always wondered this, how you decide who sings over what, because with songs that you sing by yourself, like Wide Awake or Hostage to the Light, but then there's songs like Oblivion, the bonus track off Shallow Life, very underrated track, by the way, but that's predominantly sung by Andrea. Like, is it almost like an instinct instrumentally, like you could tell who's singing over what?
Yeah, we don't even think about it. It comes natural, because obviously we have a very different voices, and I don't growl, and Andrea can go that high. So some parts are kind of made, probably, from Maki, already thinking that I could be perfect in that spot, and Andrea could be perfect in that spot. We don't want to force it. We just don't want to play the game like, okay, everybody's expecting, a growl here because the part is aggressive, let's put Christina. We put the voices whenever the song needs, or we feel the song needs, and we just go with the flow. But it's really surprising that we all agree. That's crazy.
Especially with the evolution of your sound too.
Exactly. It could be like, no, 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 I don't like this part. I mean, I should sing it. No, I should sing it. But it's not like that for us.
In order to get like that creative energy to write lyrics or come up with vocal melodies, do you need to kind of like put yourself in a specific state of mind or be in a certain place in order to cultivate ideas, or does inspiration just strike out of the blue for you?
Well, during the songwriting, inspiration has to strike, and sometimes you are like in front of a blank paper, you're in front of the computer, and nothing comes out. And some other days, you might find lyrics and vocal melodies that are absolutely perfect in few seconds. On Black Anima, I wrote the lyrics for Anima Nera in 5 minutes. I sent them to Maki. Maki said, like, damn it, I was planning it to have an instrumental, but I like what you did. So there is always, evolution in our work, but it really, really depends on the inspiration. And some parts of the work are also tiring because, especially during the recordings, you might not be in the mood. And when you're singing, I mean, the voice is a physical instrument. You can't really change the chords if you're feeling tired or sick, and there are deadlines to accomplish. So sometimes you're not in the mood of recording, but you do it anyway. But then you're not happy, so you want to do it again, and the mood gets more and more frustrating.
Yeah, of course.
So it's not easy at times. I mean, I'm not complaining because I know that I'm lucky, to do what I love. I feel I am privileged. I'm just saying that it's not always super simple. Of course, we go through moments in which we are like, damn it.
Yeah, that
I wish
happens.
it could have been easier.
Of course. And with the evolution going from Inner Reverie to now, like, I mean, does it always start off with a preconceived vision in a way? Because I considered actually my analysis of Black Anima, and I mean it in a good way, is like it was Lacuna Coil's most experimental album. I felt like, a song like Apocalypse or Now or Never took me back to like the Unleashed Memories days, whereas for Layers of Time or Under the Surface brought me back to what I loved about Delirium or Broken Crown Halo. So is there a preconceived vision with your sound, or is it a very experimental improvisational process?
With the sound, we really go with the flow because we always start from a bunch of ideas. Maki writes a lot of songs, but he also loves to listen to music. So sometimes he creates uh, songs that are not necessarily Lacuna Coil 100%, but at the same time, Andrea's voice and my voice contributed to make a song Lacuna Coil. So after we experiment a bit, some songs are turning into Lacuna Coil or are, uh, in our opinion, good for Lacuna Coil because we know what Lacuna Coil is. Lacuna Coil is something bigger than us, and we know what we want it to be. So we want to experience in an experiment, but up to a certain point because we just don't want to do something that is not Lacuna Coil at all
Yeah.
and just put the name Lacuna Coil on it. We know exactly what we want, but we never think too much before we start to write a record because it would be too automated and as you said, preconceived. We don't really like to work in a way that we already know how it's going to be, how it's going to sound. We change so many things even in the recording studio, even in the mixing and mastering. We just grab the microphone like, oh, this part could work.
Yeah.
So it's a constant work up until the very end.
That's so funny to hear you say that because I never would have thought with a song like No Need to Explain or Veins of Glass, we would get a song like Save Me or Under the Surface. So it's really fascinating that you say that. And I
Yeah,
want.
we evolved a bit. We grew as songwriters. We learned so many things. So obviously, when you listen to the very, very first songs, we didn't know much about songwriting. So we were going for, what we were liking, of course, but we didn't have the knowledge we have right now.
Well,
So two different moments in life. I'm not saying that we are better now than back then because it's two different type of moments, two different types of emotions felt and life.
it happens. It happens, and I think
Yeah.
it's very reflective of who you are at that particular time. But going back, turning back the clock anyway, I kind of there's two other anniversaries that I wanted to talk about. We're celebrating Comalize, but last year was 20 years of Unleashed Memories and Half Life. For me, that is an important record. First off, the Stars cover is my favorite cover. I love to enjoy the silence or the REM and all that, but Stars, the Sarah Blackwell cover was amazing. And I felt like a track like A Current Obsession or Distant Sun is very harmonizing. So we got 20 years of that, and this year also marks 10 years of Dark Adrenaline. And a lot of people have Trip the Darkness as their first Lacuna Coil song. So turning back the clock 10 and now 21 years, what was the sort of mind frame of Unleashed Memories and Dark Adrenaline compared to now?
Ooh, that's hard to say because I mean, when we did Comalize XX, we had the time, to really rethink what we did and we went through what we did for Unleashed Memories and Half Life. I remember a lot about Half Life, surprisingly, because we recorded it in Italy. It was the first ever EP recorded in Italy. So I have a lot of memories of the period of the recording because we were living, in a couple of apartments. So I remember a lot of parties as well and a very fun mood. We were recording it nearby Ventimiglia, and I have a great memories about that. Unleashed Memories, I don't remember much. Like now that you ask me right now,
It's ironic.
because as soon as I get inputs, I'm gonna start to tell you like, oh yeah, I remember that. Oh, I remember that. Because some of the albums are mixing up because we recorded many with Valdemar Sarita in Germany. We stayed at the same apartment, so a lot of memories are mixing it up, are
Well, it's
mixing up, and
Well, it's funny you mentioned Half Life more because I've always wondered why maybe Lacuna Coil hasn't done it before. Where, like, for instance, whenever I go back to Inner Reverie, I have to start off with No Need to Explain. I consider No
yeah,
Need to Explain to be the first song off of Inner Reverie, not Circle, because of how it
yeah,
led up to that. And the same
yeah.
thing with Half Life leading to Unleashed Memories. Have you thought about maybe making another EP before an album again? There's just something so. I've always said that, like, those EPs are like the trailer in a way.
I don't even know why, because sometimes EPs are happening just because you decide to cut out some of the songs. That happened with our very first EP, the Lacuna Coil EP, who came out. It was supposed to be a full record, but then we decided to cut out some songs that were not fitting in our opinion, and then the timing of the record went down, obviously cutting out songs, and then you don't call it a record, you call it an EP. So sometimes it just happens, or maybe you put together few songs that are making total sense, but then you don't have anything else to say about that musical style or lyrics, and then an EP happens. I like full records better. I know that things are evolving now, are changing constantly. Some people like EPs, some people like singles, some people like records. It's up to the artist.
Of course. And going back to Dark Adrenaline for the anniversary of that, because I
Yeah.
actually love the DVD that it came with, where there's like
Oh, thank you.
where every member had like their own little experience or like their own little moment to shine. It was almost kind of like what a
The
visual
mini movies.
Yep,
Yes.
but kind of like what Visual Karma had in a way.
Yes.
So, and being that Trip the Darkness was a lot of people's first Lacuna Coil song, what was the sort of mindset in that? Were you like just because I think in terms of vibe, going from Shallow Life to that was a very drastic. Like there was so much contrast between those two.
Yeah, we thought that a shallow life was a good way to to not to evolve, because I mean it was part of the evolution, but we were very curious because we were working with Don Gilmore for the very first time. It was our time to learn from a new producer, to learn new tricks, um, new ways for Andre and I to write lyrics. And Dark Adrenaline was basically the next step. So we were better in songwriting. We wrote a lot of songs, without even any input from the outside. And we wanted the visual part very strong because the inspiration was coming from a sort of a movie plot. Imagine ourselves to be injected with this like strange liquid that would give you hallucination and would make you dream about every single song. We always like to give a little story so we can tie up the booklet, the outfits. This is something that we started to do, I think, from Dark Adrenaline on,
Yeah,
maybe.
I would say that that was the first time. Well, actually, I don't know. I
Yeah,
thought,
I mean, we used outfits and everything, but maybe to give like a complete style to all the records, maybe it was the first time
I,
with
th-
Adrenaline.
it was the first time I saw like a real cinematic aspect of Lacuna
Exactly,
Coil.
exactly. In the darkness and the lights, with makeup and everything.
Yeah, I'm glad I got to witness the beginning of that too. So, and,
Thank you.
and the final question I wanted to ask you is going back to songwriting because sometimes you're working on a song for days or weeks or months if you're a band like Tool, 13 years, but like, and you always capture that energy as we talked about, that emotion that you're feeling in that form of expression. But if you're working on a song for a long period of time, staring at that blank piece of paper you told me about, is it harder to sort of capture that moment in a way? Don't you like to feel the same way when you finish a song as you do when you start it?
It's a process. It's a process, and then even if you struggle, even if you don't have any ideas, even if some days you're really hating what you're doing because it's like I don't know how to develop it. I don't know how to make this work. When in the end you listen to the final song is the best feeling ever. When you almost cry from happiness listening to what you did and you rethink about what you did, to get there. It's awesome. I think it's pretty much the same feeling that every person can feel when you have a goal and you struggle, to get there. You have ups and downs, and sometimes there are some odds in between that are pushing you back and not close to the goal. But when you get to the goal, you're like, damn it, I did it.
Of
And it
course.
feels pretty much like that.
Absolutely. And it feels that way when you listen to it too. Every time for me when a
Thank
new
you.
Lacuna Coil album comes out, it's an event. It's something I look forward to. Even working in the industry now, I always don't listen to the album until it's out just for old time's sake. So
Thank you
like
so much. I love that too, to listen to the release date.
yeah, I remember the
And I always want to hear, the old record and enjoy the journey.
yeah, of course. It's like it is like your albums are like Lord of the Rings. Before I get to the newest
Yes.
episode, I have to binge listen to the other ones first.
Yes.
Yep. If I got my hands on the ethereal demo tape, that's like the holy grail.
Ooh.
One
Oh
day,
yeah.
that'll
I
be the
should have it somewhere in the house. I
I
wonder where it's at.
that's the holy grail for all Lacuna Coil fans. So one day we'll
The
hear that.
tape, the
Yep.
famous tape.
Yep. I gave myself my old computer a good share of malfunctions getting shallow end on the LimeWire. I should confess that now, but my
Oh
com-
my.
my computer crashed, so karma came after me.
No.
Before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time, and it's great to be able
Thank
to
you.
talk
It
with
was a
you.
pleasure. It was
And
a pleasure to see you again and talk to you.
of course, it was all mine. Is there just anything else with Lacuna Coil that you would like to promote now that Black Anima is, and I can't believe, but 3 years almost now? Can we
Yeah,
be
it's crazy because it feels new. I mean, we didn't have the time to play the songs in Black Anima enough, and that's why, on the next tour that we're gonna be doing soon, we're gonna be playing a bit of Comalize XX and of course some Black Anima and obviously all the classic Lacuna Coil songs. And then if I think next year will be the time to start to write new music after we're done with the touring. And I just wanted to thank everybody for the support because we don't take it for granted. I mean, we remember where we come from, even if 25 years have passed. We never forget that, without supporters, without fans, we wouldn't be doing what we love. So
well,
let's hope that we will still be able to connect musically.
of course. Thank you for giving us your
Thank
music
you.
that relates to us all, in so many different ways. I felt like we grew up listening to Lacuna Coil, and your music grew with us. So
And the same for us. Same for us, Lacuna Coil. We grew together.
excellent. But thank you so much, everybody. We are here with Christina of Lacuna Coil, Comalize XX. It is out now. Pick it up and go back and listen to Comalize 2002. See how much evolution has occurred. We will see you next time on Heavy New York.